You guys, I'm so excited to chat with Steph, her name is Stephanie, but I will tell you guys from literally day one that she showed up in one of my coaching programs, I just started calling her Steph. Like, it was just so, like, we just, like, had this instant connection. I was like, I'm so sorry that I just keep shortening your name. Do you remember that? And I was just like,
I do remember
shortening your name and calling you Steph as if we've been friends for, like, our entire lives. So Steph is somebody who I consider a friend. She's a client of mine. She's been a part of the EMTWO community for quite a few years now. So I'm so excited to share her journey with you guys before, during, after us working together, because I feel like so many of you guys are going to fall in love with Steph just the way that I did before, just from seeing her name, in the class role, right? So, Steph, tell us a little bit about, I guess, where you were before you even came to finding Eat More to Weigh Less. Like, what were you struggling with before you ever even stumbled upon? I don't even know how you found me.
Well, I was at the end of a series of fad diets. I'm trying to remember even all the ones I did. We'll work backwards. What I was Googling when I found your name in your program is, do low carbs and does keto affect your adrenals? Because I was trying keto and I had a baby at the time. And I remember being so weak and no energy that I would push him in the stroller. And I was literally hanging my body weight on the stroller to hold myself up just on a walk because I was that depleted. And so I thought there's got to be a better way. I still had all this pregnancy weight to lose, but keto, I lost some water weight and then I wasn't making any progress and I was so weak. So I just was searching adrenals and somebody else on their blog mentioned her good friend Kiki Smith and Eat More to Weigh Less. I was like, what is this? So I Googled and that's how I found you.
Oh my God. I don't think I ever knew that.
Yeah. I'd have to go back and find her name. I don't remember the blog, but anyway, one of your former clients.
Amazing. So I love that because I don't think I ever even knew that part to your story. So that's why I'm as interested as everyone else here. I'm just like, wow, tell me more about this.
We've never talked about that.
Okay. So this was after baby number.
This was after baby number 4. And I would always gain a ton of weight during pregnancy. And after the first 2, it kind of came off with breastfeeding. Mm-hmm. And after the 3rd, it was a little harder. And after number 4, it was like my body was just broken. And it was like, I'm not losing the weight. So yeah, I was tired and depleted and I tried so many diets and nothing had worked. And I was always hungry. I was hungry all day, every day, hungry and weak and just no energy. So yeah. I knew I needed to do something different.
Okay. So you're Googling keto, you're doing keto, dying, Googling, why am I dying from doing keto?
Right.
You stumble upon this information. What was your first thoughts when you saw this information? Were you did you click the X button? This is insane. Maybe some other time. How did that even feel for somebody to be talking about eating more when you were already struggling with you're already low carb? So I mean that has to be reducing your calories. So what came next?
Well, it was actually one step before that. It was this lady. I'll have to find her anyway. But she mentioned in her article that mentioned you that she was able to eat 2,800 calories and that was her maintenance. And at the time that sounded so huge. And then as we'll talk in a little bit, I was able to get a little bit above that. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, but she had a picture of herself and she looked really lean and fit. And I thought it didn't make any sense, but I thought, well, that sounds great. So I started reading your information. And then I think I must have looked you up either on Facebook or YouTube because even before I got the starter kit, but then I found one of your videos and it was kind of perfect because in the beginning you said, so for some of you newbies that might not totally understand what a reset is, and I was a total newbie, so it was a perfect video for me. And you went through and you talked about how when we diet, our metabolism lowers and then we lower our calories and then metabolism just kind of bottoms out. and you talked through how on the reset, you increase the calories and then metabolism. I remember you did this with your hands too. I'm mimicking.
I'm mimicking sure what you did. I use my hands way too much. Like I have to sit on them sometimes because I do. I use my hands as if like everyone can visualize what I'm saying with my hands. My hands do it all. Like
what? It was really helpful because you just kind of talked through how that works in reverse, and that just kind of clicked with me. So I thought, well, okay, you increase the calories and that's kind of scary, but you showed how the metabolism keeps increasing. Mm-hmm. I thought I can try that. It made so much sense to me. And I had been hungry for years.
Yeah.
And I just needed someone to tell me, you can eat more and you should eat more. And like, here's a scientific reason to back it up. And so then I got the starter kit and I just jumped in and started reading as much as I could. And I really started eating more, I would say within the first week after binge watching your videos and reading the starter kit.
So were you a Band-Aid ripper then? If you
was, yeah. Was a Band-Aid ripper. Got a good ring.
Okay. So
yes. So since I just been so hungry, I'm here trying to breastfeed and lose weight and I'm so hungry. So you said eat more, you explained how it worked and I thought, okay, I'm going to eat more. And so, yeah, I was tracking what I was eating on my MyFitnessPal because I had been doing that, but I was just eating until I felt satisfied. And so I wasn't trying to stick to a certain number, but I would just eat until I felt full. Mm-hmm. And, that was a lot of fun. And then after a week or two of that, I started to get a little scared because some days I was eating like 4,000 calories when I would look at the end of the day. Yeah. And then the next day it might, it was 2,500. But it was back and forth. And yeah, so I went from, I was eating somewhere between 1,700 calories to just eating till I was full, which was a giant leap.
So was that scary? I would imagine.
Yes.
Feeling because I do remember a little bit when, and I know like we may even be jumping ahead in the story when you were in the Diet Rebel method and we would have like our coaching calls, and that was something that would come up pretty frequently was just like, I have a lot of control. Like, is this ever going to stop? So totally. Like, how did that start like right away feeling like that for you? Like, how did that feel to go from eating so little to eating, 1,600, which is still a lot for some people, eating 1,600 to eating 2,500, 3,500, sometimes saying 4,000. Like, how did that make you feel coming out of somebody who had been dieting for, back and forth?
Actually, I didn't get scared till maybe a couple of months in. In the beginning, it just felt super freeing. And I felt like I hadn't felt full in years, like full and satisfied after a meal. So in the beginning, I was like, this is awesome. And I have a really smart trainer telling me I should do this. So I'm going to do this. And this feels amazing. And then, then a month or two in, I thought, this is still amazing. But like, I can tell my clothes are getting a little tighter. Mm-hmm. And then, yes. And then I started in the coaching groups asking you, like, am I crazy? Should I be eating this much? What do I do? But I was still enjoying eating. But yeah, then I started to get a little nervous.
Yeah, because like you DIY'd a lot of your journey on your own. Yeah. So there was a lot of parts so that's why I said like I'm just as interested in as everyone else here to find out like what the parts were before, because I know that there was a length of time between when you found the starter kit and then when, you and I started working together personally. So like I would see you in and out of different groups, but I know there was also some things going on behind the scenes that you were doing on your own. So tell me a little bit about that, because I want to say I first saw you in 2020, maybe 2021.
Probably. Yeah. I was thinking through this earlier today, and I know that I started a reset right before my sister's wedding. So She was married in April of 2021, and I had started my reset in March, but I had found you and was kind of researching a little bit. Can't remember exactly when I found, but anyway, I started the reset on my own then, and that's around the same time I joined the coaching group. Mm-hmm. So we were doing that, and then I did a reset from March of 2021 through the end of December 2021.
Wow.
And then I started a cut in January of 2022. And then by summer, I felt like, I don't know, is the weight loss slowing? I'm not sure what's going on. And so then you and I started working together in September because I felt like I could use a little more help. So, yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, that fills in some gaps for me because that is, now that you said that, like you're reminding me, I remember that in the coaching group, I was just so like, I've always been really amazed by how, because you're a super motivated person. So like you guys listening need to know that like Stephanie is very, very motivated, very dedicated, very like, tell me what to do and I'll do it. You know what I mean? So you've always been, just like you said from day one, like, what? I need to eat more. Okay, I'm going to eat more. And so those pieces will come together. So when you're DIYing, you're the perfect person to DIY. Like typically a lot of, women that are like you, like me, are just like, here's the instructions, I can follow these on my own. So there was a lot of stuff that was already in place there. So I remember being super impressed by how long your reset was. I have spent decades trying to, convince me, and I'm always saying, stretch it out for as long as you can. And the people that are like you stand out that actually do stretch it out for as long as they can. So I don't know if you guys heard that, but you said March was when you started your reset until
the end of December.
That is a very long, amazingly long reset. And I love that. I do know that comes with a lot of mental stuff with it. So I'm grateful that we did run into each other during the coaching at that time because, I know that's the other thing that I've learned about you. As long as you know that you're on the right track, even when there is a little bit of what may feel like suffering involved or like what is happening, you keep going. So how did you keep going? Because the coaching was a small portion of that. How did you stick to a reset for that long on your own?
I watched like almost every video you've ever done. Like when I would eat and I would feel really good. And then when I would start doubting, like, what am I doing? I would just plug in. I watched all the videos I could find on Facebook and YouTube, and I would re-listen to the starter kit videos and just basically feed that into my mind because it made so much sense to me that when I would re-listen to something and have you explain it to me through video, I'm like, this has to work. It just has to, even though I'm gaining weight. And she's, and you said that could happen on a reset. Mm-hmm. And I knew I was a Band-Aid ripper. So even then, like everything you said, it was happening as you said it would. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I watched videos sometimes every day when I was really struggling.
Yeah. And I love that, not just because you're watching me and, I've been on this journey with you before I was officially on the journey with you, but because that is so important for women who are DIYing to know. Because sometimes we jump into something and we want to DIY because we are like, hey, I'm super motivated. If I just learn what to do, I'll do it. But stuff comes up, and sometimes stuff comes up minute by minute. So the fact that you really immersed yourself in the information and listen, because I remember that when we had our first call, you were like, okay, I've listened to all of the videos on the planet, on every social media platform, and inside of every course that I've ever purchased from you 4 times now. So now let's get to work.
I hope you didn't think I was a stalker.
No, I thought that was amazing because that is the perfect example of, because not everybody can afford to invest at the level that you have with us working together one-to-one. And so I think that is such a critical thing to point out. So, a lot of times I stretch these interviews out because of that. But that's one of the things that I feel is something that we're stopping to think about, is that if you don't have the level of investment, whether it's readiness, whether it's budget wise, to bring on a coach, to, have Kiki on Zoom talking to you, you still do what you have to do. And that's what you did. You took advantage of all of the free information and then some, and then watched it again. And then read it again, and then watched it again, and then read it again. And that was the thing, is that by the time we started working together, you could quote me to me.
Yeah.
So that was amazing because it would help us to get through a lot of things a lot faster because you really knew what I was talking about. It was just sometimes like knowing that next piece of us talking and saying like, hey, this is what's going to happen next in real time. More individualized to you, but you utilized everything that was out there to you first and implemented it. So that brings us to the end of the reset. So tell me about, I feel like you put the scale away during that time, right? Do you know about how much what the damage was for
No.
your or you just kind of outgrew things?
Well, I hate to say now, I still don't know what the damage was because I knew there was some damage and I was too scared to look. And so I actually cut from January until I started meeting with you in September. And you're like, okay, you have to weigh yourself now. So actually, I probably have lost more than we know because I could feel my clothes fitting better, but I wasn't willing to look. And even then, when I weighed myself, it was a bit shocking. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I got to at the end.
And that's
kind of too bad
because you did what you had to do to get through that reset. And that's what I mean. Sometimes correlation is not causation, but we do want to point out the fact that you had one of the longer resets, especially that of anybody that we featured, and you didn't look at the scale the whole time. So something helped you to get through that, and that may have been one of the things. Then I do remember that.
Yes.
You're not, because at the beginning when I'd be like, hey, I told you to weigh yourself, and you're like, oh yeah, I keep forgetting. You're like, I was addicted to the scale before. I put it away during my reset, and now I just keep forgetting to weigh myself. So okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. So something very interesting happened. So not only did you do the super long reset, right?
Yep.
But you're one of the 2 resetters accidentally, right? Like that's something else that it happened. So one of the things that I'm sure you know is you've watched 3,000 of my videos that we talk about is how we see a number that we're supposed to reset to. That number is a little bit scary. We kind of pick a different number, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So one of the very first things when we met, it was for you that you were kind of hitting a plateau. And we were like, okay, how do we break through this plateau and keep things moving? And unfortunately, came with, the bearer of bad news, Kiki.
Right.
We're going to have to increase your calories again. Tell me what was going through your head then.
That I had to take several big, deep breaths because by then, really, like while I was resetting, the increase of calories made me feel so much better that even though I could tell I was probably gaining weight, even though I wasn't weighing myself, like I just felt amazing. And so the real mental battles actually didn't come, the really hard ones, until I started cutting. And then I realized, oh my goodness, I think I've put on quite a bit of weight and like this isn't going to come off right away. So I'd been battling that for 6 or 7 months and then hit the plateau. And I thought, I know I'll get started with Kiki and she'll just help me zoom through this weight loss, or at least continue on, get through the plateau. And so, I'd been working on those mental battles for several months. So yeah, when you said we need to take a while and increase again, it was a downer. But I still trusted that you knew what you were talking about because I had listened to you so much. But it was sad because I thought, oh man, here we go again, like back up. And I just came down off of that. A little bit, but was nowhere near where I wanted to be yet. So yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. That had to be hard, especially because you knew, like, you had gone through a reset already, and you knew that weight gain was not only a possibility but a probability.
Right.
And you're in a weight loss phase, so like that is obviously one of the harder talks for me.
Yes.
To deliver. I mean, it may not seem hard at the time when I'm just like, you're fine, increase your calories. But I'm always thinking like, this is the point where they walk away. This is the point where they're like, flip me the bird and I'm out of here. We're not doing this. So you come to me and we talked about what had happened up until then, the fact that you had done this long reset, the fact that you had started cutting and you were seeing progress on the cut, things were starting to move, and you had gotten to your new low, but you couldn't get past it. And we ran some numbers. I ran some numbers and discovered that that's what I thought was the problem, was the original reset wasn't high enough, even though it was a solid reset. And you were cutting at a high calorie level then. It's not like it was really low calories. Weren't you at 300 calories or 5? I don't
No,
know.
it was over 2,500 in the beginning that I was cutting at. Yeah.
So it wasn't that wasn't a good cut number. It's just that your reset wasn't high enough for that cut number to do what it was supposed to do. So we did. We took some time. We didn't necessarily Band-Aid rip as much. We inched you up. But it's important that this was another, 4 months or so that we...
Yeah, like through Christmas. So yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because it was like the end of summer that we were talking. It was around like this time of the year.
Yes.
Which is September, the time of this recording. And yeah, we had the talk and I'm like, how long are you willing to give this? Like, what? Let me know. What is your panic time frame? What is your panic weight? Like, what are we working with here? Because I know what to do, but I need to know if you're on board with it. And you were willing.
Yeah.
But we were talking about not holding off cutting until January. So that in place, we started doing it. We're moving slower this time so that there's not a big gain. But I did say like, hey, the last month or so, like we might gas it a little bit just to kind of push this away, see if we can get it higher. And we hit some panic numbers.
Yes. Yes, we did. And this time I was watching it on the scale because you were making me weigh myself every day. Mm-hmm. So it was a little more painful, even though I was going up more slow. Because before I was probably gaining quite a bit, but I wasn't watching it, which made a big difference.
Yeah. So we push these calories. I ask you in advance, what's your panic number? I watch us surpass that panic number. I remember us hopping on maybe an extra call or two in between there of like, are you still okay? Are we good? And you did it. You stuck with it until January. Now, I want to make sure that we make this known that in January, you came into this new cut, this new year, 17 pounds heavier than Then you came to me.
Hoping to keep losing weight. Yes.
You came to me for a weight loss plateau and gained 17. Like that was above and beyond any panic numbers that you had thought of. Like we had surpassed all of the numbers, right?
Yes.
How much did you eat in January?
I was more just kind of depressed. But in that time, I still kept watching your videos and then thankfully was talking to you one-on-one. And maybe you don't want me to mention this till later, but the number that you gave me that my Fitbit was showing that I should work up to, it was crazy high number. And we'll say it whenever you want to say it. But what was really interesting to me and just really cool is that I had gone back through all those 9 months of resetting by myself. I had written down in a calendar of my own how many calories I'd eaten every single day of those 9 months. So I averaged them up month by month. I would add them all up and divide by 30, 31 days. And the number that I got was the exact same number that you gave me, that you said my Fitbit was saying. So even though it was really scary and really depressing to have to gain, at the time I thought I was just nuts and pigging out. And then all of a sudden it's the same number that my body was telling me, that you were telling me. And so that gave me some courage that you were right. So yeah, so it was all of those feelings mixed together. But then feeling depressed that I was once again up where I had been the former January. Maybe. I don't know what I was the former January.
Right.
But I felt like I was back up there.
Yeah. So that was the hardest part. And we can say the number. So how much did you reset to? Like, let's go shock the world.
Yeah, you told me this number even before we started. You said, according to your Fitbit, you should be resetting at 3,100 calories. And that blew my mind. I mean, it blew my mind. But then when I looked back, I was like, that is exactly what all those 4,000, 2,500, 2,800, 3,500, that's what they averaged to. So my body knew more than I thought it did. But it was, it was still scary. Scary, but I thought that would be awesome to be able to eat that much. So I was thrilled, scared, depressed, like all of the emotions at once.
Yeah. So it's like, this is a great experiment if it works.
Yes.
Not. The food's good, so I'm going to enjoy it.
Yes. Yeah. And I had different emotions every single day at different times of the day. Like, this is awesome to be able to eat this much. I don't like how I look in my jeans. All of the things every day.
And I do. I do remember that because I remember us having the conversation about the number. And then when we synced your Fitbit for me to be able to see it, I'm like, your Fitbit's literally telling you the same thing. So like you're getting that number from all over the place. You're getting it from the calculator. You're getting it from your Fitbit. So when we were looking at the amount that you were eating and the amount that your Fitbit was saying, we're like, okay, you're not matching that activity. Like, let's get there before we add on the other things. Because at the time we were also adding in periodized lifting for the first time. So you had been working out, right?
Yeah.
Not in a periodized way. I think maybe you were 2 years into lifting.
Yeah.
And with other different programs, we were putting you into a year-long periodization. So we were making a shift all at the same time. So I remember us inching up to that number, and you're like, "Do you want me to keep going? Should I keep going up? Should I keep going up?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we're doing this. We're going all in." So instead of it being the 2,500, 4,000, 2,200. Or 4,200, like instead of it bouncing around, we just sat at that 3,100 for, like we say, a couple months. You inched up and then we sat there for a couple months until January, and we kind of rode the New Year high of, all right, let's cut now. And then we couldn't even start the cut on time. Like you had like some things come up that like delayed the cut even more. And I remember you were just like, oh my gosh, I just want to cut. So by that time you were ready.
Yes, I was more than ready.
Okay, so we set out into that year we had a blueprint of where we wanted to get to by the end of that year. I'm sure it probably felt even more overwhelming because what we had to do in January was adjust how much weight you now had to lose to get to that new number. So we had one number, and then now we had extra weight to take into consideration that probably felt like, okay, now we just added another year to the time frame. But that's not what happened. So again, to reiterate, Steph, when you tell her what to do, she does it. She may feel all the feels. So that's what I need from you, is to understand, how do you work through all of the mental stuff that comes up when what you're doing and the results that you're seeing are not aligning? Like what comes up, like to walk me through that, because that's not the case for everybody.
Well, I think it was maybe the coaching, the 6-week coaching that I did, that you talked about this a lot, but probably other videos too. But you talked about how your weight does not affect, like my weight didn't make me a worse mom. Like I was still just as good of a mom. I am a musician and I lead worship, and it didn't make me any less of a musician, and it didn't make me any less intelligent so I really had to think through, like, yes, my weight isn't where I want it to be. And I may wonder what people are thinking, etc. But like, I'm still the same mom I was. I'm still the same at what I do, at my teaching music lessons and everything that I do. I'm still a good wife. So I just really had to focus on that I'm no less of a person because my weight is higher. And that I do have goals. And even if other people think it's crazy that I'm going in reverse, like that doesn't matter. I'm still me. So I had to talk myself through that a lot with help from you and your videos.
Okay. That helps, because it sounds like you put your focus on those things while still taking the actions instead of it being an either or. Because I feel like a lot of times that's what happens with people, is that one area just gets so depressing that they'll put their focus in another area. Like, I'm just going to focus on being a good mom. I'm just going to focus on being a good wife, or, well, my weight doesn't matter because I am doing these things, but then they're also not taking the steps to get the weight down, which you found your gray area where you were doing both of, doesn't define me, but I would still like to reach this goal, and I'm still going to take the steps towards the goal, while also kind of putting on blinders to the fact that it doesn't seem like anything's happening over here, right? And
it helped to know that there is a plan. I am following the plan. Even in the beginning, before I started coaching with you, I was following a plan. And then when I started coaching with you, that was even more support, that I'm following a plan. You're watching my plan. So it also helped me to stop obsessing and analyzing and searching for the answer, because I had wasted so much mental time and energy on that in the past. Like, what is the right answer? I got to figure it all out. And I thought, I'm not where I want to be, but I don't have to figure it out. It's figured out and I'm doing it. So eventually I'll get to where I want to be.
Yes, I love that. I call that like the crock pot. That's when you set it and forget it. Because I remember when we first talked, and it came up sometimes during the coaching, obviously with the group coaching, but definitely more like in depth when we started working one-on-one, that was the main thing for you. And you know, and you told me that straight out, like, I don't mind doing what I need to do, but my mind can get the best of me if I don't start seeing results. So I need to know that I'm on the right track. And like, you let me know, like, that's what I need from you. And that works perfectly for me because, you know, my arrangement as a trainer, I'm just like, hey, I focus on the results, you focus on the behaviors, and we can shake hands and agree on that. And if that's what we're doing, then I don't want you to think about the results anymore. I will just tell you the behaviors. And as long as you're executing those, if the results aren't what they need to be, I will make those changes. So it really worked well for us because you were telling me that's exactly what I need from you. It was like, hey, I'm gonna second guess myself. I'm gonna doubt things because I'm not an inconsistent person. Like, that's what I felt from you as you were saying, like, look, I'm obviously perfect to DIY. I'm not an inconsistent person, but here's why I may look inconsistent on paper.
Yep.
It's because of that doubt, that analysis paralysis, that, like, you know what I mean? Like, those things up when, like, who knows? I may be like right on the cusp of a breakthrough, but because I don't know it, I'll either stop or, you know, start changing things up, you know, prematurely. So that's what made you the perfect client, because of the fact that I'm like, well, that's perfect for me because I don't want to have to micromanage you, but I need you to follow like what we're saying to do. So, okay. So now, one of the things that I want to point out is that not only did you reset to 3,100, this meant that you were cutting at a very high number. So I want to emphasize this because, you guys, she's lost quite a bit of weight at this point, right? So now that all of that like is said and done. So like if we jump ahead, which we might jump back again, if we jump ahead 54 pounds and your calorie average over the entire time was like 2,500. Like the average amount of calories that you ate was 2,500, and the average amount of carbs that you ate, guys, please, like, I hope you're sitting down for this, was like 250.
It was amazing.
Like, what in the world? So like, did you ever, especially because I didn't know that you originally were keto when you started, like, when you're Googling having energy or whatever on low carb, did you ever think that you're going to lose 54 pounds eating 250 grams of carbs?
No, I did not. Not that many carbs, and certainly not that many calories. I had come to a standstill at like 1,500, and sometimes I would go lower and not lose. So no, that never occurred to me.
Oh my goodness. Now, obviously, because your calories were so high was why your carbs could be higher. Obviously, if you're only eating 1,500 calories, that you can't because you wouldn't be able to eat enough protein. And I want to point that out. You crush your protein. Oh my goodness. So like when I say like, I don't want to have to micromanage a client, like, let me tell you, that was like day one. You just like went there. And I remember us kind of having that conversation. You're like, do I inch up here? Do I do this? And I was like, I'm more of a, let's just get there, girl. And you're like, great, I am too. And then like your protein, usually that's one of the things that even though I don't want to micromanage, I usually am and kind of poking. You went there. How much protein did you eat?
I ate on all my cut phases 200 grams a day, and then maintenance would always be 150 or above, which was often above. But yeah.
So okay, I'm sure the question in everybody's mind is, how in the world? how do you get in that much protein? And I mean, because you're still eating a good amount of carbs. So the ratios were really nice. So for most people, that's still very comfortable, even eating that much. How do you get in that as a mom, and you're a homeschool mom? You guys, she homeschools. This isn't just like, not just like
there's a mat behind me.
Just, eating protein all day and going to Pilates. She is like doing the things. So how do you get that much protein in?
Well, first of all, I found what worked for me. And as far as protein, I mean, I just stuck to the same types of protein every day because it worked. I'm a person that I don't mind drinking down protein shakes. And so I would do usually 3 of those a day, one at breakfast, one at nighttime, and one in the middle of the day. And then I remember another video you put out, like protein hacks and helpful foods. And so my lunch every day, I would have a bag of the Quest protein chips and a bag of beef jerky. And so like if you factor in those 3 shakes and the protein chips and jerky, that's a pretty good amount already right there. So then after that point, it wasn't hard to meet the rest of my protein with the typical high protein foods. But those daily protein shakes and that protein at lunch just kind of set the stage for a high protein end to the day. Some collagen, I put that in my coffee. So yeah, those were things I just did and still do every single day.
Love it. Love it. So, okay. So you ate the protein, you ate the calories, you're able to lose over 50 pounds at eating well above 2,000 calories, which most people would never even attempt. Even though you gained, you guys, the story has a happier, I won't say ending, middle, because she's not done yet. But we were able to not only lose the dreaded amount that you gained, but then another, 37, 40 pounds on top of that. Mm-hmm. So having, like, when you're looking back at those pieces and the other things that were added in. So some of the stuff that we added was, obviously I made you do another little mini reset. We added in DEXA scans. Tell me about that, because of the fact that I know that was not something that was easy for you to go. Yeah.
The closest DEXA scan is 5 hours away. So yeah, that wasn't really, but we made it happen.
Not convenient. So again, sorry about that. But tell me why you were willing to go 5 hours to get a DEXA scan.
Just because you asked me to, and I figured that if I did the things you told me to do, I would end up where I wanted to be and where you said I would be. And so it was pretty much that simple. Like, I was tired of trying to figure it out on my own. I was like, you know what you're doing. You're telling me to do it, so I'll do it. That's kind of all it was.
And I mean, that's the reason why I'm asking, because I know that, I want your journey to be as helpful to somebody else that isn't getting coaching, but I also want them to understand the shifts and changes, and especially the mindset shifts that happen when you did reach out for coaching, because then there are other things involved. There's the increase in protein, especially if your family's not eating that much protein like that. I don't know how much money I'm adding to your grocery bill. I'm adding travel plans. Like, I'm creating all these extra things for you when you're signing up. So how does someone, especially in your position, make that determination to invest in yourself in the way that you did? I know a lot of moms really struggle with this, so that's why I'm asking you specifically, because you're not just, a single woman in corporate America that has tons of money to spend, which, even if you're a single woman in corporate America, this is still important information, but it's something that I see come up a lot in moms. It's hard to put yourself first. It's hard to invest in yourself. And I know you, and I know that your values are very high for family. So how does somebody who values family and the things that you value justify the investment that you have put in yourself to get to this level?
Well, it really goes back to my family, because all those years that I was not eating enough, that I was searching for the diet that would work. I was depressed and anxious and worried that I'd just keep gaining and I'd never get it figured out. Like, that didn't make me a very fun mom, when I'm always having half of my brain worried and depressed and analyzing what I should do for weight loss. So, like, doing the things you ask me to do, but feeling at peace that, like, I'm working a plan, like, this is all going to happen. I don't have to figure it out anymore. Even my husband has mentioned many times, he's like, you're sure a lot more relaxed now that you're working with Kiki, because I am not spending so much time trying to figure it all out. And that makes me a better mom. So it comes back to family still.
So I love that, because that's very important when you have a value that sometimes your values can butt up against your goals. It sounds like you found a way to tie your values to your goals, so that you were doing it for them, not in spite of them, or not like, I'm ignoring my family to do these things for myself, which I feel like a lot of moms struggle with. They don't want to, focus on themselves because they think that focusing on themselves is taking time away from their family. They don't want to spend money on themselves because they feel like that's pulling from the family finances. So like there was a lot involved in your journey, and I don't want to discount that because it showed how all in you were at every step of the way. There were so many roadblocks, and like I say, like these like tough conversations for me where literally I get on the Zoom and I'm like, this is the day. This is this is the day where she's like, nope, not gonna work.
Never.
We're done here. And the day didn't come. Like you did it. You kept putting one foot in front of the other. And if there was, and there would be times that even you on your own would just say like, hey, I know we're not even booked in for a call yet, but I feel like I need another, like a little in-betweener because I want to stay the course and I just need to like talk it out, make sure I'm on the right track. So at every step of the way, I feel like that's something that I don't want to discount that part of you, because I know obviously you're giving me a lot of credit, but that I could give anybody a plan. I give people blueprint plans all the time. They don't continue on and do other calls afterwards. I don't know if they ever implement the plan. I don't know what happens, but I saw you take these obstacles like a champ. Like every single one, you're just like, all right, knock that hurdle down. What do you have next? Even when it hurt, even when it didn't feel completely like this is not the way that I thought that would go. We had times where you're like, could I eat a little bit less? Could I add a little bit of cardio? And I'm like, no, you will not eat less. You will not have cardio. You know what I mean? And when we would have these conversations about other things that you can do, even when I didn't give you the answer that you wanted, you're like, and you would keep going. So like you always kept up your end of that bargain. So I want to make sure that we point that out. So you're already a super disciplined person. And I think that a lot of women who are super disciplined would think that that is a reason not to reach out for help. And you use it as a reason to reach out for help, which meant rocket fuel for you, for your goals and for the things that you were trying to do. An amazing client to work with. I will say this Steph is one of my younger clients.
That sounds so good. I like that.
We joke about that a lot because that was one of the big things, was losing 40 pounds by 40. So we turned 40. I was going to say we turned 40 together. You turned 40 with me. I was already well past 40. But that was something that you did accomplish. You got your 40 in while you were 40 still.
Yes.
And now you've gone past that. So is there anything else, like tips that you would give to somebody who is DIYing the journey? Maybe they're not where you at yet, or maybe they are where you are. Like, what are some of your biggest tips for the person who's kind of where you were before we even started working together?
Well, obviously, the reset is such a mental battle because, if your goal is to lose weight and get smaller, very likely you will gain on a reset. And I sometimes care too much what I think everybody else is thinking, and I, get in my head about that. But I would go back and talk through and think, were any of the diets that I did before working? No, they weren't, or they would work temporarily and I'd gain it back. I never felt good. I was always hungry. I would watch friends and acquaintances, do other diets and lose and gain it back. And so when I would think this is crazy, why am I gaining weight? Then I would tell myself I have to do it differently if I want different results. Like if I want to keep it off and maintain it and be able to eat, or else if I do it the same way I used to, I'll just get the same results I used to. So it has to look different, even though the different is a little scary in the beginning. It can be scary at different points the whole time, but the reset especially is a little scary.
Okay, so that's the biggest thing, is the reset. And this is coming from somebody who did a really, really long reset. So any tips for the cut, or anything that you can think about that came up during your cut that you didn't expect that maybe would help somebody?
I was expecting, and we had this conversation many times, I was expecting the progress to be much more linear than it is. And that's the times I would almost try to take the reins and like, I'm gonna do something, and you'd have to talk me down off that ledge. because I would just see the same weight, the same weight, the same weight, up a pound, the same weight, down 0.2 ounces. And I think, am I ever going to get anywhere? And I've gained all this weight, and like I've lost 3 ounces this week. But then you would tell me to keep going, and then I'd see a drop of a couple pounds. But that was also a mental game,
For sure.
just doing the same things and not giving up and keeping the macros the same and lifting even when I would have a week or two of not seeing a drop on the scale.
Yeah.
If you were right, it would always drop eventually.
So I think that is such an important thing to definitely like hopefully take as like a huge takeaway, is that before we even started working together, that was one of the things that you brought up, is like, hey, like I want to do this right this time, but just know like I have been like second guessing myself and going back and forth on different things, and I want to change things up or whatever, you know, all the time. I think it's important to know that like it's not that necessarily went away.
Yeah.
It's not just like suddenly you were like, it'll just all work out when the scales
Right.
jumping all over the place. It's still there throughout the entire year, right? All of the ups and downs.
It really helped. One time you told me, you said, I do look at your daily weigh-in every day. And that really helped, because I thought maybe you weren't, because I thought, well, surely she wouldn't be okay with it staying the same for like 2 weeks. But you were watching, and like that's what you knew that would happen. So yeah, that was really different. Not like most diets, but it's good.
Yes. Because that was, and that was the thing that I would remind you, is like, remember, we have an agreement. If I don't like the results, we will change something, and I will let you know. And along the way, we did have things that we would change, where we would say like, all right, let's try this, let's tweak this. And that was easier to do because you kept up your end, because you stuck with the behaviors. So if I truly didn't like a result, I would let you know that I didn't like the result. But for the most part, like, it's so funny how a lot of our conversations were literally, you know, us hopping on a Zoom, me sitting there and saying, that's fine, it's completely normal. You're doing great. Everything's amazing, you know, and just like you said, that was what you needed from it. So even though it's kind of, you know, and us talking about it, people are like, so basically, like, you just hired Kiki to like tell you good job every couple of weeks, sometimes. But it's because you knew that you needed to hear that from someone who had seen it before versus trying to fight all the voices in your head. So I just think DIYers know that the voice doesn't go away. But the process is proven. It works.
It does.
It's completely unorthodox.
I spent my entire cut feeling like when I used to do the real low calorie diets, you know, you got to like psych yourself up. So I'm going to eat all the things today because I'm starting my hard diet tomorrow. And the whole time I was cutting, I kept feeling like I hadn't started yet, because I was still eating ice cream and really yummy, great things. And I kept feeling like that when you're eating all the things, but you're about to start your diet. But like I was losing weight while feeling that way the whole time. It was great. Amazing.
So is there any other way that you feel like this has, I know you said that you got on board with this for your family. Do you feel like the journey has helped your family at all, your family life, or the way that you show up as a mom? Or has that part not really changed since you were focusing on it a little bit before?
No, it definitely has changed. I'll say 2 major things in case I forget one: my patience level and habits. I've never been a patient person. My mother would tell you that. I've always wanted results now. And just learning to like just stick with it and be patient even when it's hard, and the results will come, because I want to take action and see results. And it doesn't always work that way. I mean, you see them later. So I feel like that spilled over into lots of areas of my life. Like, just stick with it. If you know you're doing the right thing, just keep at it, and you'll see results in so many areas. And then you talk so much about developing habits to where you just do something every day, and you don't think about it. So even with my kids, like, our family is not athletes. We're not into sports and stuff. And so it's important that I get my kids moving, since we homeschool. They're not a PE. So just something as simple as we go on a daily walk, but that's become a habit now. And I think before, I always thought you have to do some big, huge thing every day, like have my kids doing an hour of cardio. And one thing I learned is just good habits. Like it can be something small, but if it turns into a habit, I mean, I'm really proud that we go on a daily walk and I get them all out there moving. And I think that's something that will become a habit for them. And then hopefully they continue that when they're adults. And so the habits thing has been huge, and knowing it can be a small thing, but they add up to big results, even the small habit.
Yeah. Amazing. And now I was actually about to end it there, but you brought up a key word that I do want to include for those who are thinking about it. Cardio. 54 pounds. How much cardio was assigned for you to do?
None. Sometimes my heart would beat hard on a leg day, but that was a leg day. None. And I really hate cardio, so that was awesome.
I definitely wanted to include that because I know there are cardio haters out there like me and you that are like, is this really possible? So, it was something that we did always say, like, hey, we'll still hold it out, as, a wild card if we need it later. And it is still there to use later, but just to show like the amount of progress that you've made so far without having to use it, having, obviously a daily walk with your family. We don't consider that cardio. That is just transportation and family bonding. So that's something that I definitely wanted to throw in there in case you were wondering, like, yeah, but how much cardio was she doing eating, 2,500, 3,100? None. No cardio.
None. Yeah.
So, it's a thing. It's possible. I think that those are the big things that I really wanted it to be like useful to somebody that is in that same position, especially like moms, stay-at-home moms, homeschool moms. But I feel like obviously like working moms too can realize this because Steph is definitely working. If you've ever been a homeschool mom, which I have, it's a full-time job. And you do also teach music, on the side.
Yeah.
So like, you're a busy woman. You have things going on. Yes. It wasn't just like you have tons of time to do, but I think you kind of nailed it when you said it was kind of like, well, when do we start?
Yeah.
And it's like, and down 10 pounds and down another 10 pounds, down another 10 pounds.
I felt that way the whole time.
Well, we've already started. It's happening. So I know that you're not done yet. I know that this is not the last that we'll see of you, but I really wanted to document this moment in time because of how far you've gotten with what feels like so little work. Because the majority of the work has been up here. The majority of the work has been the mindset. And so I love that you were pointing that out because really the other parts were very intrinsic to you. It was intrinsic to you to follow the plan. It's just that all of the mental battles that come up when we are attempting to follow a plan. So done that, you made great progress. I know I've said it on tons of our personal calls, how proud I am of you. And that's why I wanted to make sure that we really shared this because you're normal, right? Like you're a completely normal,
totally
40 plus year old woman that is doing the things, right? Like you made this a part of your life. Feel like it's a lifestyle now. Things are going to obviously continue to get better from here. I'm excited to see how things progress for you and what happens next. So we'll be keeping in touch and bringing you back on to share, what has happened since. But as for right now, I just feel like it's so inspiring to watch what you've done without trying, even though obviously there was a lot of things going on here. One of the things that when we first, I don't want to say met, but when we first decided to work together that you brought up was your family and how you wanted to be with them. And that's one of the things that I really hope happen. You said, and let me see, I have my notes here, that you wanted to have more confidence, feel better, be lighthearted and playful, and feel younger and more carefree. So hopefully those are still things that you are like thriving for, and your family is starting to feel some of those things coming to fruition for you. So I want to make sure that we put that out there because it wasn't all about the weight loss when we made those things. And
they kind of like part of their day is, they just know. They know that when I lift and they come down and they listen to music with me. And I think if I were to stop doing any of these things, like they would think it was weird. Because it's just part of their day too now. And it's kind of cool to see.
Okay. The biggest question that I have before we let all of this go is that most people their big question is, when will I see progress? Are you at a point now where you can physically see progress, or that people around you can now see progress? Is it visual?
Definitely. Yeah. And people are starting to ask what I'm doing. And I think I said this to you earlier. I feel like when I tell them what I'm doing and what I'm eating to maintain, I kind of whisper 3,100 because it sounds so crazy, and I'm waiting for their reaction, and they usually think they've misheard me. And they always think I've done something really drastic, and I haven't. It's just these habits, and eating more. So people are noticing, and I feel lighter. I mean, obviously the clothes are fitting better, but I just feel different. I mean, it helped me build muscle, and a lot of the fat's gone, and I just feel so much stronger. And it's great.
Good, because I get that question all the time. Will I ever weigh less? Because of so much time in the journey and during the reset, it's focus on the scale and look the other way, and it's okay. And as long as you feel good, and are you gaining strength? And there's all these other factors that our mind can start to play that trick on us of like, is this just eat more to weigh more? Like, will I ever eat more and weigh less? And so from someone who found this while they were eating 15 to 1600 and went 3,100 and above, lost weight just slightly below that. Are you eating more and weighing less?
I am, yes. And it's wonderful. I feel fed now. I have energy to do things, and I'm not like dizzy and trying to white knuckle it through the day. Yeah.
Love it. I'm so excited for you. We'll definitely have you back to share even more. So thank you so much for sharing your story stuff. And I'm sure I'm going to get so many emails about it, and so many people are going to be inspired to get out there and hopefully stick with it and fight through the mental battles. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Kiki.